Thank you all for being here this morning. Maharishi, the guru, the man, the myth, the legend. But was he celibate? Was he supposed to be? Are all gurus supposed to be? It's Judith Bourque wrote a book about her love affair with the Maharishi, her story, her tales. It's all going to start right now. Judith, welcome so much for coming on. And your book right here, Robes of Silk, Feet of Clay.
Yes.
So basically, before we get into the book and talk about it, it's a story about young Judith, finding like every young person, they go through their meditation, they're missing something, and they're looking for something in their life. We go through you, and we're curious when we're young, but you had a love affair with the Maharishi.
Yes.
Okay. And
so this is not a made up story. This is a true story.
The story you're about to hear is true.
Well, I was 20 when I started meditating. And you could say that that's where the whole thing starts. I saw an advertisement in the newspaper. I was going to university in Boston, and I saw a picture of a bearded man, and it said, lecture on Transcendental Meditation as taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And I didn't know really what a yogi was, so I looked that up, and that came from yoga, and yoga meant union, and then transcendental meant going beyond, to go beyond. And those are very exciting and interesting concepts to me. So I decided, all right, I'll go to that lecture. And then when I went to the lecture, which was held by a man named Jerry Jarvis, he spoke about experiencing the source of your thoughts in meditation. You could experience the source of your thoughts. And I thought that really sounded interesting. I mean, he was also talking about, there were a lot of students there. He was also talking about how students would get better grades and, they'd improve their intellectual abilities. But it was that this is a way you can experience the source of your thoughts. That really got me interested. So I started meditating, and then gradually I found out that you could become a teacher of meditation. And at the time, after I graduated from university, I was originally planning to work with emotionally disturbed children, because I've always been the type of person, I want to do something for the larger picture, so to say. I want to contribute with something. But then when I started meditating, I went through a lot of changes myself in a rather short time. After a few months, I noticed that I was changing on some pretty deep levels. And that, when I found out that I could become a teacher of meditation, I thought, this is the best thing I can do for the world. This is faster. So that's when I decided that I definitely want to become a teacher of meditation. When I decide I'm going to go to India, I am preparing for a deeply spiritual experience. That was what I was expecting. For me, Maharishi was, at that point, he was my master. I mean, I hadn't met him, but all the talk about him and all the benefits I'd gotten out of my meditation, I was sort of seeing him as a living prophet, really, comparable perhaps to Jesus. I was raised Catholic. So in my mind, it was like a living apostle or a living Jesus, someone who was this holy and yet alive in my time. That was such an exciting idea to me. So I was expecting a very deep spiritual experience. And then what happened was a very human experience.
Yeah.
So to my surprise, from the very first, Maharishi called us all down to his home, all the students of, who were going to become teachers of meditation. He called us all down to his home, and he decided he was going to have a brief chat with every single one of us. And on the way out of the room, he looks at me and he says, "Come." And then I asked the woman beside me, I said, "Did he mean me?" And she said, "I don't think so." So because I was by the door, it turned out that I was the very last one. So then when I went finally to have my interview, he said, "What took you so long?" And I said, "Well, I had to wait my turn." And he said, "I was waiting." And that surprised me. That really surprised me, because he started to treat me as though I was special somehow from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I really did not expect that. That whole thing took me by surprise. And then he started, he sent his skin boys, his assistants, to come and fetch me and come and spend time with him at his home. And one thing led to another. I basically felt very, very chosen, very special. And I was seduced by that, you could say.
Yeah. How long were you there before the affair started?
Just, I don't know, a week or so. I can't remember.
That's it. Just a week, huh?
A week or 10 days, something like that. We had landed. We were resting, for a while, and then he called us down to his place, and then I was immediately treated as someone special.
Wow. Now we have a picture of right here. There's a picture of you and the Maharishi right there.
Yes.
And
That's right.
There's a picture. Where's this photograph taken? Right here. That one right there.
That is in Livigno. After the course was done, there was a small group of us that stayed an additional 2 months, and then we all went to Italy to have I think it was the first international meeting of all the teachers at that time. There were only 500 teachers of TM at that time.
So your first meeting with the Maharishi alone with him, what were you thinking? What was going on? What was the setup at his home where you were at?
Well, he brought me down to like a cellar room that he called the cave, and we went into this small room where he had a picture of his guru, and it was a place where he would initiate people, and he did different. He did what we call a puja there, a Hindu religious ceremony. So we're there, and he starts to ask me how everything is going with my meditation, and and I'm still thinking, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, I mean, I was young and beautiful, and it should have occurred to me that it might be because I was a woman, but it actually didn't. It actually didn't. Not until he started to touch me. So he started to touch me, and not in an offensive way. He touched my hair and he stroked my face, but then he immediately said, "Don't tell anyone."
Okay.
Don't tell anyone. So at that point, then I realized, oh, Maharishi's a man and I'm a woman.
That's right. Yeah. And at that time, when did you think? And I'm curious, do you feel like this was the first time that he might have said that? Don't tell anyone. Yeah.
I don't know. I after I wrote the book, a lot of people wrote to me, and I started doing my own research as well. Books were starting to come out. People's stories were starting to come out, and all of that I hadn't gotten into before I wrote my book. But from what I understand, there was always people around him would notice that there was an interest in women. And there was also supposed to be a woman before me who later came out in a newspaper article and said that she had had an intimate physical love affair with Maharishi, and that he had actually taken her virginity and all of that. That woman is not alive today, so there are a lot of things I still don't know.
Yeah.
All I do know is that when we did go into our love affair, I felt that Maharishi was very inexperienced, and I wasn't very experienced either. So in spite of the age difference, we were like a couple of teenagers, really, rather awkward. And
And he was, how old was he at this time, would you
He
say?
was about 52, I think.
And you? At
Was
that,
22.
you were 22. Wow.
Mm.
He could have been your father,
Yes, he could have been.
right?
Yes, he could have been.
At that time, and so would you, what year was this around, you would say?
This is 1970.
1970.
Yeah.
So the affair that the other lady who's not here anymore, did that happen around when the Beatles or around that
I've
time?
heard different times. I've heard that it was initiated 68, but and I've heard 69. It's hard to dig out these details
Yeah, yeah. Some people not
when
around.
people are gone. Yeah, when
Yeah.
people have left the planet. So it's
I mean, before your story, there was rumors,
mm,
apparently, and that was one of the reasons why the Beatles left,
yes,
because they had word
yes,
that the Maharishi wasn't all what he was. He was a man just like them,
yeah,
a man with knowledge, a man who knew how to talk and manipulate, or whatever you want to say. I mean, things like
mm,
this have been going on forever. So when your first experience, when he said, don't tell,
mm.
what went on in your head? Were you a little scared? You feel like this was wrong or right?
You know, as I recall, I think that I was just in such a state of awe.
Hmm.
I was so blown away by, my God, this is my master. This is my God. This is a living prophet, and he loves me.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically where my attention was. You know, I understood, obviously, that I shouldn't tell anyone. Um, but I don't remember spending a lot of time. You know, I wasn't. I've read Mia Farrow's book, and I've
Mm-hmm.
often reflected on, you know, when he put his arms around her, she pushed him away, and I've often thought that was a much healthier response,
Yeah,
actually. Mm.
she pushed him away, but
Yeah, but I felt special. You know,
yeah.
it was as though my neurotic needs were being fulfilled.
Mm. Now
Mm.
over here, I've read that you asked him what would happen if you got pregnant, and I was surprised by his answer.
Yes, yeah. He said, "Get married quick."
Get married.
And then I said, "Married to who?" And then he said, "Some good choice in the movement."
Wow.
Yeah. So
So so
then,
obviously,
you know, by that point, you know, the affair has been going on for some time, and at that point, when I get that answer, of course, it was hurtful to me.
yeah.
It was hurtful. Mm,
Mm.
mm,
Devastating to hear. Yeah.
mm, mm.
And then when you, so when you were alone afterwards, what was going on while you were there and alone thinking about this? Here you're having this love affair with him,
Mm.
and then when you go back to your room, what was going on in your head at that time?
I, I was just so, mm, I was just so involved with the now.
Hmm.
And I did think of the future. I think that in my mind, I was going to be some kind of combination of officially a nun and secretly a wife or a partner, something like that. But I did think at that time I would be devoted to him for the rest of my life. I would be in his movement for the rest of my life. I remember deciding that.
Yeah. Did
Mm.
you did you so he made it clear he was not going to be married. He wasn't going to make you a bride.
No. Mm.
He made it clear.
Yeah.
Did you ever see him flirt with other women around in front of you?
I did later on, about, I can't remember, you know, exactly when. I didn't keep a diary. I was afraid to keep a diary. I didn't. I
Mm.
was afraid someone would find what I wrote down. So a year and a half, we're at some course, and a woman comes in that's come from another country, and I see the way that he greets her, and I just know. I just know that, he speaks softly to her. She bends down close to him to hear what he says and nods. And I just know they've made an agreement that he said, come to me in the night, something like that. So, at that point, gradually, I'm starting to realize there are other women, and that of course was extremely tough. That was so tough, because then all of a sudden I realized I'm not special.
Yeah,
I'm not special. There were no other women at the time in India. That time was a special time, and I would have to say, as I look back on it, he was in love. I mean, we were both in love. And I, I was watching his every move. So there were no other, and there were other people watching us that I found out later on. So there were no other women at that time. But when we came back out into the West, then he was once again surrounded by so many young, beautiful women. So many.
So many. Debbie over here had a question. Did any of the other women get pregnant that you know of?
I do know. Let me put it this way. I have a very good source that Maharishi has a daughter.
Is it only one that you know?
And I have seen pictures of her, and she looks just like him.
Does she know, you think?
I do.
Oh, and do you think
because my source said that she told herself that she was his daughter.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that the identity of her father is protected.
Is protected.
Yeah.
So he basically covered it. What's right here. What's even more interesting is that everyone that's spoken about him seems to still be protecting him from the truth on some level.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That has to do that there have been people who have made attempts to come out with the truth, but what generally happens then is that the movement has people lined up. I don't know if they're actually hired but their job is to go to attack, to make that person in media, any kind of media situation. It could be on Facebook, it could be on Amazon, to make that person look ridiculous. And that I share a story about that in my book when Lulu Mace does an interview with me, and I thought it was a good interview actually, and she put it out there, and I think it was just within a couple of weeks there were 5,000 hits, which at that time was a lot, and that might have been 2012 maybe, and then they started to write and sent the interview. The people, I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure there's people in the movement who sent the interview to other journalists and said, see what a terrible journalist this woman is, and they really attacked. So basically, she took the interview down, but she did also. She said, "This is not my conflict." So she took the interview down, but she also took down the other interviews that she had about TM on her site. So she didn't only take down my interview; she took down other interviews that were speaking positively of meditation. But I don't know if that, why are so many people protecting him? I mean, I want to go back to that question. Yeah. Partly it's because people are afraid. I mean, there are other women who experienced what I experienced after me, I know, especially. But they are afraid to come out and say it for obvious reasons. Because if the TM movement, which is still a powerful movement, and there are a lot of well-known people involved with the movement, if they attack you publicly, then that's a big choice. That's a big choice, whether or not you want to deal with that that sort of thing. But the other reason that he is protected, I feel, is because the people in the movement want to maintain their image of him. It's as though people need to have someone to be devoted to, someone to worship. It's as though we have that need many times. I know because I did. I had that need. So I can recognize it in others. But, today I've matured. I've had a long time to think through this. And I think, I think that one of the reasons I needed to have a guru was that I was so little in touch with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was so little in touch with the guru within myself. I was so little in touch with my own wisdom. I felt like all the wisdom was out there or came through him, or and so many of the people in the movement, they want to keep the version of Maharishi that they fell in love with. They don't want to know about his human sides, which I feel actually, that's kind of tragic and sad. I would love to see the movement say, so this happened to you, and it happened to that woman, and it happened to that woman. Gosh, I guess you did need closeness and love and a sex life and intimacy and all of that. I guess he did. I guess he was human. Wouldn't it be great if they could accept that their guru was not a god, that their guru was human, and then be thankful for the good things that you got from him, and then be willing to look at, accept, and finally forgive, hopefully, the aspects of him that you don't feel fit in with his guru image or his guru role. I feel that living a secret it's so detrimental to your life. It's not good for your health. It's when I decided to write my book, I thought that I had let go of the whole thing. I thought that this doesn't affect me anymore. Mm-hmm. And then after I wrote the book, I realized how it had affected me.
All this emotion came out afterwards.
Yeah. Excuse me, but
okay.
Even though I've been working with this book now for 10 years, I did finally realize that it had hurt me to lie for someone else for all those years.
The audience, Judith, is courageous for coming forward. I agree. Debbie, I admire Judith for coming forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie, incredible story.
Thank you.
When was that moment when you decided, okay, I had enough, I have to leave? What was that last moment for you?
I can remember that. I remember that moment, and it probably happened about 6 months before I actually left. But at this point, I realize, or I suspect, that there are other women, and every day when I'm around, I was around Maharishi for 2 years. I was in the inner circle for 2 years, and I had work. I was a secretary to Jerry Darbus, and I was just there all the time, and but I would always get myself all fixed up and as beautiful as I could be. Perfect clothes, perfect makeup, in anticipation of whether or not I would meet Maharishi. And then one day I just realized, my God, my state of mind is completely dependent upon whether or not Maharishi is nice to me today or not, whether he gives me any kind of special attention, whether or not he shows me that he loves me. I just realized this is ridiculous. If I stay here, I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. And I'm so thankful that I got that insight. And then I just decided, I've got to go. I have to leave. And then it took me quite a while to figure out how I was going to leave, because I didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. I mean, my expenses were met. You know, my travel expenses were met, but I didn't have a salary. I worked a few months in Los Angeles with Jerry, and I think that I had some kind of a salary then, but it was nothing that you could put anything away on.
Yeah.
So I had no job, I had no money, I had not told my parents, I had no support system. So it took me quite a while to figure out, how am I going to leave?
Your parents.
And then I had the good fortune to meet a man who fell in love with me, and I fell in love with him. He was basically my knight on a white horse. He saved me from the situation.
Your parents, were you just couldn't talk to them on that part, or?
Do you know, my parents are both gone now. And that's another thing that's emotional for me, because all of a sudden one day after I wrote the book, I realized they were gone when I wrote it. I realized I didn't tell my parents. I never told my parents. And that also made me realize that I had been ashamed. I'd been ashamed. All those years, I'd been ashamed. So that was quite an aha experience for me.
Yeah. Going into it, and Debbie, I will put the link. Everybody, the link will be in here, and I recommend it.
If people go to my site and order the book, you can order it on Amazon as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to my site and order it, I'll send you a signed copy. Do I have time to give a final message, or?
Of course, you know what? You have more than enough time here. Go ahead, Judith.
My final message would be that we have to try to find spiritual guidance from within ourselves. We have to find our own internal guru. I think that's the only way. There are a lot of self-help books out there now and that sort of thing. But I mean, if you think about it, when you get really, really scared about something, what's the first thought that comes in your mind? It's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then you want to talk to someone who's very wise and who has experience with these things, these matters, or who knows. But the risk is that if you, and I have done this in my life, that's why I'm saying, and that's why I'm sharing about it. The risk is that if you listen to someone else's advice too much, or let's say if you you may get some good advice, but somewhere you feel like, is this the right thing to do? Or you might have an intuitive internal response that you feel like, this is what I think I'm supposed to do. And then this expert says, do that instead. This is what you should do. And you follow the expert. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times that intuitive insight that you had was the right one. So I think it's something we need to really practice. We have to practice trusting ourselves, trusting our own intuition, trusting our own spiritual guidance. Find the guru within. I can't say it enough. And I still have to practice this. I still have to practice this.
Find the guru within.
Yeah.
We are going to get out of here, everybody. But please, before we go anywhere, we love you. Subscribe, like it, love it, share it. See y'all later. Goodbye.
It's coffee talk with the Tika. Nothing rhymes with that but chicken tikka.
You guys got me right there. I'm just reading my friend's. Oh, Susan, you're here too. I just happen to be reading your book. I want to show everybody out there in the world. Please, everybody, please check it out. I will put all the good descriptions right there. But that's our friend Susan. And before we go, thank you guys. But click up there, click over here, up there, there, and remember. Subscribe, share, love one another, and always be steepling. Right, Dr. G? Always steeple, huh, Dr. G? That's right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.